I think we're live. Hi, Steph.
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. It's Friday.
Well, I wanted to say a couple of things. I've been trying to work this up with you for probably the last month or so, and we we're just now getting it together. But we did get it together, and
hmm
I think it's really cool that we managed to do that.
Yep.
Um, this is actually the first video on my channel, and I want to say a couple of things about that. Just that, I've done YouTube before, experimented before, kind of want to go into a new direction. Really, my main focus here is I just want to talk to people who interest me. Um, Steph, you grab my interest in a very powerful way.
Thank you.
Your videos, your YouTube videos are completely, really amazing. I think you show insight that is not common for a woman your age. Um, yeah.
Yeah, honestly, I've gotten that so often in my life, and sometimes I think like, why do people say that I'm not that smart? But then I realize that not only my background in psychology helps, but because I think so much, and I try to pinpoint reasons why people do certain things. So then when you do that all the time, like you're kind of like a detective, you end up finding something that people don't necessarily see.
Correct. I mean, yeah. Um, that's the first thing I wanted to ask you. You told me earlier you have a psychology background,
hmm
so you're. Am I mistaken to think that you're kind of looking at people's psychology, what they're thinking, how they're motivated, and things like that?
yeah, yeah, mostly what motivates anger, especially these days, like people, they can't control their anger anymore, and the reasons behind that, like they can be so complicated, but at the same time they're really really simple.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to tell you. I wanted to direct it to Comicsgate because that's actually how we initially met. I don't really remember exactly how we met,
Yeah.
other than you know the forgiveness video that you had on YouTube, and I caught you on Twitter initially. I thought your forgiveness video really, um, I don't know how to say it. It's excellent. Everybody should listen to it. Um, this idea that holding a grudge, nursing anger, is a total self. It's basically self destruction. It's like I want to destroy myself. Go ahead and hold a grudge for the next 20 years, and you'll do that. And you you explicated the idea of why you forgive someone to me so thoroughly. I would have anyone watch that video. My question is, how did you come to that?
Honestly, I don't know. Sometimes I think mostly experience.
Have you had to forgive someone?
Yeah. Like, so I was in university, I think, and it's crazy story, but like I sold my old PlayStation 3, like I think it was the third one, yeah. Like the fat one, the first versions they made,
Hmm.
because this guy needed a part from it. And so I was like, "Oh, I'll sell you my PlayStation." And then we did the whole trade thing. And then later he texted me and I was like, finally the part that I wanted isn't in the PlayStation. It's probably like an older generation or newer one. And then I continued to text him and I was like, "Well, if you want a refund, I'm fine with that." And we continued talking. I was like, "Why are you so nice?" And I was like, I don't know. There's so much like anger in the world. Like, why be mean to people? I mean, you bought something from me, and I obviously don't want to scam you.
Yeah.
And then we talked a lot about the Bible and God and stuff. because that's at the moment that I became a Christian. And so I explained to him some things about that. And he was really interested. And then he told me something about himself that it made me angry. Like, he told me he had molested a young girl. And my ultimate reaction, I was like, what the? Like, obviously, when you hear that, you want to, I don't know, it might be violent, but you just want to punch the dude, right? But then he explained to me everything he was feeling and the regret and stuff. And I just realized that, like, whatever people do, if they want to get over it, then why can't we forgive them? And so that's kind of my mentality. Like, everyone can be forgiven if they really, really, like, want to try and get all of that stuff behind them. Because who are we to judge someone when we ourselves have done so much things to people, you know, even as kids and adults? Like, we've made mistakes. It's normal, you know, we're not perfect. And so
Yeah.
it's just this ideology that forgiveness can actually make people change more than just trying to paint them as evil, you know?
Yeah.
Which people do. And when he told me that the first time, like, my first thought was like, oh my God, that's evil. I don't want to ever talk to you again, you know?
Yeah.
And I could have never talked to him again because I didn't know him. But I don't know.
Yeah. That's particularly mine's a little bit different. You know, I have an ex-wife, and I had to figure out how to forgive her.
Okay.
It was I don't want to go too deeply into it, but I had to figure out I had to figure out forgiveness, essentially, the whole concept of it. How do I forgive a woman who just completely attempted to destroy me? I want to tie that, though, to, I don't know, like, all right, so something that has been on my brain. I tweeted to you about this, actually. It was, you know, I know you're Canadian. In the States, you know, the Kavanaugh stuff.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about how, you know, a woman who, in that particular situation, if I say that everything that I think, what is it, Blasey Ford, everything that she said was true. If everything she said was true, and you know, this guy pushed her on a bed, felt her up, tried to strip her, you know, if everything she said was true, 35 years later, that she's still nursing this resentment. Well, that's the thought that I kept kind of springing from. Like, how sad is it that 35 years later, you're still nursing this resentment towards this guy? I was thinking, in a mature, this is going to go somewhere. I think it's going to go somewhere. I was thinking, in a mature culture, in a culture in which, you know, you said you're a Christian, in a Christian culture, I would argue that the United States is no longer a Christian culture, or is a post-Christian culture. But how weird is it that we're talking about not weird, but what does it say about our culture that we're basically indulging a woman's revenge fantasy? And no one is talking about, you know, it really is sad that you're still nursing this awful hatred 35 years later. It really is sad. It's pathetic, in fact, that you haven't figured out a way to forgive.
Yeah.
I wish that was kind of a part of our national conversation, and it isn't.
Yeah. It's really sad. And like Salem said in the comments, he said, it's not mentally healthy to carry all that hatred, and it's not. Because, you know, as I've said before in my videos, the more you hold on to it, the more you're going to nurse it, and you're just going to create more and more hatred, and it's just going to go, it's going to take you down a very dark path.
That's the thing you said in your video that really struck me as true, is anger. Anger, no matter how you deal with it, you have to deal with it. You can't walk around carrying it. You can't carry anger around. That's a negative emotion. It's awful. It will destroy you. It will make you an awful human being. Which segue, Comicsgate.
Yeah.
Seems to be completely predicated on the anger, in my view, that a lot of people have decided that comics have lost professionalism. That's my word. I think that's the actual key to Comicsgate, is that it's a reaction to a loss or a lack of professionalism. Everyone seems to be striking out, but they don't know exactly what they're striking out against. There's a lot of anger.
Mm-hmm.
I wondered if I could get you to talk about Comicsgate. Kind of, hell, I just told you in a nutshell how I feel about it. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I think definitely the professional problem, like the way they can't be professional is a symptom of their anger. Because as you said, they don't know what they're angry about. They're just angry. And so they just feed to that anger. They're angry at people. And I think it's at that point that the anger becomes an actual mental illness, you know?
Yeah.
Because mental illnesses start a lot with delusions. You're deluded into thinking you're seeing something or you're feeling something, and all those feelings, you know, especially anger, you think it's real, and you think you have a right to be angry. You know, like these people, they're like, oh, I'm a black creator and they don't like me because I'm black. And so he thinks, oh, I have a right to be angry because these people, then they're racist. But really, the problem is not people, you know, it's themselves. But I don't think they see that.
Yeah. What's your comics background?
I never really written a comic or been into comics, but as a kid, like I grew up with Spider-Man and Batman, and I always loved reading those superhero stories. And never once did I think, oh my God, these women, they have big boobs, and I feel so bad about it.
But that's interesting to me because I mean that seems to me pretty normal. And you would think that every little girl is out there looking at how females are represented and basically hating themselves, like we're raising all these women all these girls are seeing the completely inept representation that we're doing with females, and they're all coming up just completely screwed up. That seems to me what they would have us believe. And I was thinking, on the other hand of the coin, like flip the coin, I grew up with He-Man. That was my thing when I was a kid. And seeing, you know, these super muscular males, and I don't feel like it's affected me at all.
I think it affects people who want to be affected by it because, as you said in the beginning of the video, they're self-destructive. And they're self-destructive because they hold on to that anger. And so they see something they think they don't like, and they're like, well, this thing is going to make me feel shitty, so I'm just going to continue hating it until it changes. But then the feeling you have doesn't change because you didn't attack the problem, which is the reason why you feel that way.
Well, Comicsgate in particular, that's actually how we connected. So how did you discover Comicsgate? You know, like how did you come into that realm?
Oh yeah. So I had been out of comics for a long time, and I live in a small town, right? So we didn't have a comic shop, and it just opened up like 2 years ago, I think.
Hmm.
And so obviously when it opened, I was like, oh my God, this is like the holy grail to me. And so I went there and I picked up books that I recognized. I was like, oh, I'll take Spider-Man. Oh, there's a Jessica Jones one. Sweet. Oh, I see X-23. Okay, I'll take that. And then I read them. I was like, what the heck? I was kind of disappointed. And
What was the what the heck? What was that?
like like these stories, they seemed way too childish,
Yeah.
and they weren't fun, and they were boring. And I was like, when I was a kid, comics were about ripping people apart and saving people. This is boring. I want like the the fondest memory I have is like going to the dollar store and seeing that Batman Wolverine dude. What's his name? Like Nightclaw or something?
Mhm.
Larkclaw? Like that's the stuff that I grew up with and that I loved. And then I opened this stuff up and it's like, oh my God, I'm such a good feminist. Also, I don't have boobs. It's just so weird. And and so I went on YouTube and I was honestly, I was like, I'm not gonna buy these new comics. I'm just gonna go and search for the best old comics, like the 90s. And so I was searching videos on YouTube, and then I saw one of Zach's videos pop up, and I started listening to him, and I was like, oh my God, he's so right. But at the same time, I was still a feminist back then, and I was like, he's like a misogynist. So I stopped watching, and then I fell upon Captain Cummings videos, and I don't know. I started having conversations with them, and I realized how hypocritical this movement was, and that's when I really got into Comicsgate.
that that my story is kind of well, not exactly similar, but I don't even remember exactly how I found Zach, but I found him early on, early in his channel,
Mm-hmm.
and I would, I would listen to his videos. And I mean, listen to them. I would put my phone on the nightstand next to my bed and listen to him review a comic, and he would put me to sleep. Um, it's like uh, he I've always been interested in comics
Mm-hmm.
since I was probably 9 years old. Um, and I was listening to Zach. He would rip up the comics in the early stages of his channel. He would rip them up, you know, and
Yeah.
I was real. I found him compelling, you know, like this argument that he's making that comics are have basically lost the what's the word? You know, what's the word? They've lost something. There's something has been lost, and I keep trying to put my finger on what that word is. But that's the reaction. You know that we're losing something. Something has been lost. To
Mm-hmm.
me, it was compelling. So I was listening to his videos, and I'd walk over to my comic shop here, and I always found Zach to be spot on. You know, like in his reviews, completely spot on. You know,
Yeah.
so I'm following this. Hell, I've been following Zach and just kind of cheering him on. You know, like there's this infection. Um,
Yeah. It's like I think, and that infection is mostly anger.
I agree with that. The thing that I keep coming back to though is like why was there such a negative reaction to what he did? And
Mm-hmm.
let's say that all Zach ever really did was on his cell phone video himself ripping up a comic book that sucked. And the reaction to that was nuclear, by comparison. I think that back to what I was saying, that basically he is pointing out that the comic book industry, and you can look at how the professionals, quote unquote, react to people on Twitter being a cesspool, but
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, a nuclear reaction to someone who could have just as easily been dismissed as a nobody. Why? That's the question to me. Why has he risen to prominence and now is selling his own comic books? It's a really interesting problem.
Mm-hmm. The few people who jumped in here in the comments, Danko's here. He's an artist I work a lot with. So, hey ho. And Ibai is here. What's up? And then Salem, he's saying what was lost was the passion to create. More modern artists usually seek to destroy.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I think that destruction also comes from what they feel inside, because we use art. I mean, art comes from your emotions, whether you're writing or painting or drawing, whatever, you really pull from your emotions. And if all you can think about is anger, and if you really are on this self-destructive path, then your work is really going to reflect that.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot. And then they didn't like what Zach was doing because he was pointing that out, He was pointing out their flaws, and because they don't want to change, he was the problem, not them.
Yeah. Which, has I've been following this for the last 2 years, and now it's been ratcheted up to the point that, he's a white supremacist, this whole he and EBS. It's become absurd.
Mm-hmm.
Really all because he is pointing out, because he's shining a light on the fact that these comic book creators have, in my view, I'm a Spider-Man guy. I love Spidey. I'm a Spider-Man guy. I've got a tattoo of Spider-Man on my arm.
Nice.
It's almost as if these people writing the books right now don't even understand the characters at all. Like, there's no connection to history.
No. And they don't have that passion to write for that character either. Like, when you don't love a character, then you can just do whatever you want with them. They don't care about authenticity or, their characteristics and their flaws and all that stuff.
Yep.
It's like they try to interject themselves so much in the character that the actual character loses their original personality.
Becomes something that it never was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to imagine, of course, we're in a different context nowadays, but I'm trying to imagine, in the 60s or something, people, Stan Lee,
Mm-hmm.
coming out and telling basically the majority of his audience to go fuck yourself, which is basically what we're living through right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, Stan Lee said that?
No, I'm trying to imagine him doing that. You know what I mean? Like, loss of professionalism.
Yeah, I wouldn't have taken him very far.
No.
It would have been
Yeah.
like a Chuck Wendig, and he would have gotten the boot really early on.
Exactly. Well, I know that we are both writers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, is this your first novel, or is it a graphic novel that you're doing, or a novel
Yeah,
novel?
it's a graphic novel.
Okay.
I'll tell you the story about mine.
Hmm.
So, well, how do I start? I will say that Zach has been a huge inspiration for my writing life. Um, Huge, in fact. I never conceived of my writing in the terms of a graphic novel until I started understanding comics and Zach. Yeah, I've been writing all my life. That's actually what I do. I'm a I have a PhD in linguistics.
Oh,
Uh,
nice.
I teach writing, and
Hmm.
all of my writing has been basically geared toward getting tenure. You know, getting academic, basically academic writing, and I reconnected through Zach with the 8-year-old who read comic books.
Yeah.
Um, and I started, and that was the origin of this, and I had this idea, and I guess I can kind of speak to my idea.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I wanted to have a heterosexual couple, a man and a woman, have a relationship that worked. A lot of that has to do with my own personal life that I have never been able to make it work with a woman. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought, that's actually probably possible. I'm writing fiction, so I can make it possible. The next part of that is how I hate fucking Marvel. Um, Everybody in Marvel has to have a power. And this came from, let me see, like, all right, an expansive universe in which everyone has to have a power. So Flash Thompson, Spider Man's, you know, nemesis, he has to have a power. Everybody has to have a power. Gwen Stacy, she has to have a power. She has to become Spider Gwen.
Yeah.
Everybody has to become powerful in this universe. So you end up with this glutted universe.
Mm-hmm.
It irritates me. It makes me not want to read the comic books because I'll say this, because it cheapens everybody else. Like Spider-Man, you know, the idea that you get bitten by a radioactive spider, that has to be like being struck by lightning. That has to be unique.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Marvel has completely cheapened everything in its universe. There's nothing unique about anybody in that universe. So I started thinking, I want to recreate this. I want to make a universe in which powers are exceptionally rare. So start right there.
Yeah.
Powers are exceptionally rare.
That's a really good point.
So my two characters, Taser and Soliloquy, they are the Adam and Eve of this universe. They have been entangled at the quantum level. I'm not going to give that away, but they are entangled. They feel each other's feelings. And
Okay.
they gave each other they basically swapped personality traits. So Soliloquy is a complete and total bitch. Taser is kind of a meek and soy based nerd. They
That sounds
have
really cool, actually.
well, there's an incident in which they become entangled and they swap traits. and become all the more powerful for the swap. So they basically at that point they form a team, and I told you yesterday, an evil cyborg tries to rip them apart. I wrote through that today, got that totally nailed down, and I was just really struck by the concept that we're going to have a couple, a man and a woman, essentially a love story. Basically, the whole damn book is a love story.
Yeah.
And everything is stacked against them. Everything wants to pull them apart, but by God, they are loyal to each other. And in the end, they win. That's the story I'm writing. I'm trying to basically my whole scheme on that was to I want to have a I've been writing it as a script, like a movie script.
Okay.
So it's very visual oriented, you know, which I figured I've never written a graphic novel before, but I figured that if I oriented it toward the graphic, it would be accessible to an artist. So, I'm gonna be looking for an artist really hard in the next couple of months, because this project has legs, and there's no question. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that sounds like an awesome story. And honestly, the best stories are kind of action adventures that are founded on love. You know, like if you look at a movie like Mad Max, it didn't start out as a love story, but because of Max and Furiosa learning to work together, you know, ultimately they succeeded.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was the whole idea I had, you know, like that's exactly where it originated. Like, is it possible that a man and a woman could have a relationship that actually fucking worked? But the answer to that question is no. No. It never works unless you decide that it will. Both of them have to decide that it will.
Yeah.
So that's the story.
Yep. That's gonna be awesome.
Well,
And
I
yeah,
want you to read. I know we messaged the other day, but I totally want you to read and give me feedback. So,
yeah,
what you got cooking?
I'll definitely do that if you want to send it to me. And I've already given some feedback on a few Comics Gators comics books, and it's been a really awesome experience reading people's work. And I'm so excited for like the Indiegogos that come out.
I hope to get to that point with this. I do. I think because I think it's a quality story. I think it's a quality story that people would like to actually read.
Yeah.
I'm basically I'm to the point that I could turn the script over to an artist, but I don't know any artists at this. I really don't. So maybe this broadcast will bring it to some people's attention. I don't know, but in the sense that like you're like with me, you're dealing with a guy who will just drop a script in your lap. That's kind of what I am, you know. So I wanted to bring that out in the stream tonight, but I'm really curious to hear about what you've got cooking.
Yeah. Salem said, "Are the games?" I think he's quoting Jigsaw from those Saw movies, and he says, "Are the games simple? The best ones are." And as he said, like you can apply that to anything, any media. Like if again, I'm going back to Mad Max because I watched that movie like 4 times in the past 2 weeks, but like the plot is extremely simple. It's basically a 2-hour chase. But it's everything in between that makes it worthwhile watching.
That's what you want, you know, a straightforward plot.
Yeah.
Who's your main character?
Oh yeah, it's gonna be a vampire story, and ever since I was a kid, I don't know, but I just love the vampire lore and everything around it. And maybe it's the power too, you know? Like when you read about Spider-Man doing all those things, it is sort of a power fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the fact that, you know, not only are they powerful, but they kind of have to be swayed in a way, you know, to drink from people.
Yeah.
But these days, the only vampire stories you get is high school, and then there's this chick, and she's like, "Oh my god, my boyfriend is a vampire." And then there's like, there's like a love triangle, and then it becomes a square, and then it becomes an octagon, and then it becomes a pentagram, and then you're just like, "What the fuck?" I don't know. I'm just tired of this tween. I don't know, this tween trope surrounding vampires. Like the only good ones we've ever gotten were Underworld and Blade. And obviously they're good novels, but I don't know. So I don't even know what I'm saying. But basically I had the idea when I saw they wanted to reboot Buffy. I was like, why in the world would you do this? Why?
I'm with you. I'm with you 100%.
And then sorry, what?
No, don't do it. Like, don't. Why would you do that?
Yeah, just don't do it. Because like I was like, I know what they're gonna do. I can already see it.
Oh, it's gonna be awful.
It's gonna be vampires, and it's gonna be love triangles evolving into love pentagrams, and it's gonna be boring as shit.
Yep.
And so then I was thinking, why don't they do something in another setting, like completely, and don't have this whole thing about vampires being secret. My lover is a vampire. And so I was like, well, you know what? Why don't I write it instead of being angry that they don't do it? So, you know, I'm a big sci-fi nerd. I love sci-fi, anything futuristic.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Blade Runner. That's my jam.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Yeah, so good. And so I decided to combine kind of Ghost in the Shell, Blade Runner, and Blade, and like Underworld all together.
Well, that's what you got to do. You got to, you got to take the things that you love and put your stamp on them. Mm-hmm. You know, while you were speaking, what strikes me is that we're doing what apparently people who are paid to do it can't seem to do.
Yeah, because we're passionate about it. They see it as a like same old, you know. And when your passion becomes a chore, it's not really art.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see we come from the same place, and like we have the same reasons for wanting to write this.
Yep.
And Salem says, as a self-identifying vampire, I'm offended you appropriate my Transylvania culture.
Cultural appropriation.
Yeah, with vampires. Fang appropriation. But yeah, honestly, the premise of my story is kind of like yours. It's you know, at first glance, it's humans and vampires needing to work together because they've been at odds for so many centuries. But because my two main characters is a female vampire, she's kind of like this elitist asshole who doesn't work well with others. And even though she developed this synthetic blood that vampires can drink because humans are kind of going extinct, I mean, she still hunts humans because she's an asshole. And then she ends up in a fight with this character called Echo. Mm-hmm. Now, Echoes, I didn't want to call them vampire hunters, but I called them the Night Stalkers. So basically, these hunters, obviously, they devote their life to hunting vampires and protecting people from them. Like the small percentage of people that are left in the world. And so she's targeted by this hunter, and they fight. But then I don't want to give too much away. I don't know how to summarize this. Well, obviously the vampire wins. And then we get to the second main character, who he's kind of the leader of these Night Stalkers, and Echo is his sister, and then he's trying to find her, and that leads him to Victoria, who's the lead vampire. And so, as I said, it's like humans and vampires needing to work together, but it's much more men and women needing to work together, at least to me. They start off hating each other, and then they realize they need each other to fight off a greater foe, which is a militant organization that wants to eradicate the vampire menace. But like they take these things way too far. They're pretty much extremists. And so, where the heck was I? I should have just read the summary I wrote because I don't know. But yeah, so they start off being at odds. They fight each other, and then they realize they need each other. But then there's a point where they become equals, because they start trusting each other and they let that anger go. And anger is what we talked about, because if you hate a whole species, you're literally just holding on to a grudge.
Mm-hmm.
And their violence, it comes from that grudge. And so it's really about forgiveness and
so you're putting all those themes right in there. I love it.
Yeah. I may have not explained it in the best way possible, but it's going to be really cool.
I've got a sense of things from that.
Yeah. I know, it's exactly like what you said. Men and women working together is better than them fighting, because you're never going to achieve anything if you're in a fight.
I mean, yeah. We're in a really odd place in history right now. Mm-hmm. I guess it should be pointed out that you're a woman and I'm a man. Mm-hmm. And we're having a pleasant conversation.
I hate you because you're a man.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you talk to me. Harassment.
Do not. Well, I mean,
it's sad, but it's true.
Yeah, and I don't know what to make of it, because this is not weird to me at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is not weird to me at all, and I should say, even to the people who are listening to this, I have never spoken to this woman previous to this conversation tonight, never, and it's going just fine.
Yep, so, I don't feel scared.
Yeah, you don't feel like I'm gonna come up there and stalk you in Canada?
No, I mean, it's past 7 p.m. But I'm inside, so I think I'll be fine.
But if I get in the car right now, I could maybe be there by 3.
Well, I might just put like my fridge in front of my door. Just kidding. Like, I don't even lock my door half the time.
But point being that really, like, if you step away from things, like there's really not a problem at all.
Mm-hmm.
There's no problem. Everybody has it built up in their mind.
It's fear mongering. It's exactly what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Salem said that we should start a Discord to discuss writing, but he also says that he has one that we could join. That could be cool.
Yeah,
it's a good idea.
Well, I can tell you, for me, the thing that I do is I get up every morning at the same time. I get up at 6 a.m. every day, and I write for an hour. even if I don't want to, I push forward with something.
Mm-hmm.
So I messaged you yesterday, like about the girl, the female character,
Yeah.
and that was just because I wanted to get a female kind of stamp of approval on what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make the female completely evil, um, do something completely awful. With a guy, that's not really difficult, you know. Like, if I want to do something evil, I just go up and hit somebody in the face, you know. But with women, operate between the ears. That was my instinct, and you kind of validated that, for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Um,
Yeah, I think sometimes it's good to just throw an idea out there and then see how it's received by someone else other than you. Because when you write, sometimes you're so much in your own head. You're trying to think, is this good? Are people gonna like this? I don't know. And you kind of go insane from it's
well, from my
it's
perspective, I just didn't want it to sound like, like I'd watched too many movies. Like,
Mhm.
to be authentic. Like, women are terrible to each other. They're fucking terrible to each other.
Yep.
I want to get a sense about that. That was the question. If for everybody, I asked her the question yesterday. If I was a woman and wanted to do something really bad to another woman, what would I do?
Yeah.
And I kind of already knew what I would do with that, but you kind of verified it.
Mhm. Yeah. Honestly, and as I said, I've never really had close female friends. I've always hang out with guys because, I was into I would say I was into comic books when I was young, and I was into video games and all that stuff. And how many girls back here went to that? So I kind of saved myself from all that that bull crap.
Can
all
I
that.
ask you something?
Yeah.
Why? What you just said. I
Mhm.
mean, how did you get veered off into the the path that you did? Um, I'm saying this because I watched a video when you said you had gender dysphoria.
Mhm. Yeah.
Like,
I
how
think.
does?
Sorry, you go.
No, I'm just like, I'm trying to reconcile the fact that I see you as a very feminine woman,
Mhm.
and apparently you've come through a lot of shit to get here.
Yeah. And honestly, maybe it started there because I remember like I think I was in primary school, and these magic cards and Pokemon like started getting really popular, but mostly amongst the guys. And I love that stuff. And then every time I talked about it to like one of the girls in my class, they were like, that's guy stuff." I was like, okay. So then I started to hang out with the guys. And they were really more inviting than them because the women, they made me feel like if you're not like us, then you shouldn't be with us.
Because men don't play mind games. They're pretty much like,
Mm-hmm.
what we say is what we mean.
Exactly. Like with my guy friends, if we have something like if one of them annoys us, we'll just tell each other straight up. You're like, oh my god, you're being annoying. Like we won't go in the back and then make this whole story, and then we're gonna go out one night and then we're gonna get drunk and we'll be like, I love you, but you're a bitch. And then you'll end up crying in each other's arms. I mean, I imagine that's what women do, and but yeah, more about the gender dysphoria thing. I think because I felt so close to men and comfortable with them, people like even in school started saying, "Oh, you're a tomboy, you're like a boy," and I was like, "Well, maybe that's true." And it's kind of funny that even kids in elementary school would say that,
Yeah.
and it kind of just followed me all my life. And eventually, when I hit puberty, and then you start having feelings for people, and it just sort of evolved from there.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I must be a guy. I don't know. It's
Well, I mean, and you just go with that.
what do you mean?
I mean,
Oh, like you.
where's mom? Where's dad?
Yeah. well, no, both my parents are still married, and
What I mean is, like, you just go with that.
yeah, I think you accept it as fact because when something is repeated to you so many times by people around you, they're like, well, maybe they see something I don't, or maybe that's who I really am, but they see it and I just don't want to accept it. And if you listen to many coming out stories, that's exactly what people say.
And that was a story you actually, I mean, one of the things that, you said that you coming out as not out
Mm-hmm.
was more destructive than coming out.
Yeah, because when I came out, you like, I don't know, I was to my friends, and obviously they were fine with it. I was like, oh, guys, I think I'm bisexual. And like most of my friends were guys, so they were like, sweet, we're gonna look at butts together.
Well, I mean, like, did you have to, honest to God, did you have to kind of hedge it like that? Like gradually, become a straight woman? I don't know if you are straight right now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
But I don't know. I don't know if it was gradual. Honestly, the feeling was overnight. But because I had so many walls up, and because my sexuality and me thinking I was a dude was like anchored in my personality, it took a while for everything to fall off. And then the first thing that I realized, I looked at myself in the mirror and I was like, I need to let my hair grow. And I know, like, it's not because you have long hair that you're necessarily feminine, but most of the time it is sort of common for women to have long hair.
Yeah.
And and to me it is a sign of femininity, because when I had my hair short, it wasn't to have like a cute pixie cut, it was to have a fade and look like a dude.
Yeah. You've got that picture that you on YouTube,
Mm-hmm.
that juxtaposed picture.
Yeah,
And yeah, I mean, it's striking.
I know, I look at that picture sometimes, I'm like, oh my gosh. But at the same time, I don't know, when you get rid of that problem, you don't feel embarrassed by it. I'm really happy that I can share it too. But yeah, like eventually all these things, they fell off. And even though the realization that this wasn't who I was like, it was like a split second thing. And honestly, it really hurt. Like, it was a punch in the gut and repeated punches. And then for 2 days, I felt so depressed. It was ridiculous. And I felt like I was lost. I was like, well, who I am, if I'm not who I thought I was, meaning just my sexuality, which is a small part of someone,
Right.
then who am I really? And I was like, oh my god, so I can't watch shows with gay people anymore because I only watch these shows because people were gay. Oh my gosh. And then eventually I heard, okay, Steph, calm the fuck down. Seriously. And I heard clearly, one step at a time, this is not a race. It's day by day. And then when I let that go, honestly, it took about a year. And at the end of that year, I fully like regained my femininity, and I stopped bodybuilding to like have huge muscles. Which was also like, not only it's healthy, but it was also self-destructive for me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to put this to you. The context that you just gave. You do that in that particular video that I'm thinking about, you juxtapose those pictures with you basically looking like uh,
Justin Bieber, but hotter.
nothing that I would be interested in pursuing at all. Put it
Yeah.
that way. And on the right hand side, a very beautiful girl.
Hmm.
How in preparation to talk to you tonight, I looked at that and I'm like, how does that happen? You know, like
Hmm. I think part of it is confidence, but not like confidence in, oh, I think this is who I am and I'm happy that people support me. It's more confidence that I know who I am, you know? And I obviously don't know 100%.
well, is it weird to hear me say that the one on the right is beautiful, but the one on the left is not?
No, I understand completely because when I look at it, that's exactly how I feel.
Okay. I
I
figured you posted it for a reason. But I didn't want to I didn't want to piss you off, you know.
No, no, no. Don't worry. You won't piss me off. But it's true, like when I look at that picture when I was bodybuilding a lot and when I, essentially cross-dressed as a dude, I look at myself and I'm like, this is not the image of a not only is it not the image of a pretty girl because I didn't want to be a pretty girl, it's not the image of someone that's healthy mentally.
Yeah.
And it's I didn't look pretty because I didn't want to be.
So you
you know.
kind of that's interesting.
Hmm.
The
And every
way that
time,
you
like, you know, even my mom, she was like, "Oh my God, why'd you cut your hair like that? You're such a pretty girl." And she was like, good thing you're pretty and you have really beautiful eyes because that haircut, is bad. And
Mhm.
but in my head back then, I was like, well, what's the problem? Why do I need to look pretty? But you know, I don't know.
Hmm.
I think if you're confident in who you are, you will be. I don't know. I think the thing that strikes me most when I look at those two pictures is on the left, I look cocky and like I'm smirking. And I think it's the left, right? I don't
Mhm.
know. And on the right picture, I look really happy. Like it's not a fake smile, it's a real smile.
Mm, you look beautiful.
Mm,
Um,
thank you.
I'm just I can't parse how those options are available to a woman hitting her stride. I don't know. Like I don't have a frame of reference, so I don't have words here. I
Mhm.
remember in the eighth grade walking down the hallway and seeing Valerie Russell's ass in jeans and going, "I like that." You
Mhm.
know, I knew I liked girls early on. Um, I guess I would push you to answer that question. Did the question is? You told me that you're straight.
Mhm.
Um, when did you figure that out? And like when I was in eighth grade, I figured that out. Like in the sense that they kind of hit me. Like I like women. You know,
Yeah.
why was it such a late realization for you?
Well, so when I hit puberty in high school, I had a boyfriend. And I really loved him and stuff. And then when people say like they come out, they're like, "Oh, I kissed a guy and I didn't feel anything, and then I kissed a girl and I felt like a unicorn." But like they didn't get that tingly feeling in that stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of weird because I had that with guys, and then I had that with women. And so my conclusion was that, oh, I'm bisexual. And then somehow that just turned into 100% lesbian. and there's no logical explanation for it. It was just me really believing so much. Not believing, but I think it became so much part of my own personality that it took over completely, and that's how it went from bisexual to fully lesbian.
Well, was there a push one way or the other?
I don't think there was a push, really. Like, I can't even pinpoint the day or how. I think it would just the fact that people are gonna hate me for saying this, but the fact that it became popular. And so then I was like, oh, well, if I'm a lesbian, then that makes sense, and then people will love me. And then I won't have to deal with pregnancy, which was really stupid, but honestly, that's...
So, like, in high school, were you just kind of like this obnoxious lesbian that everybody kind of hated? You know, like...
Yep.
I kind of went on a limb right there, but for me personally, I have never met, speaking for myself, I have never met a lesbian who was a happy person.
Yeah.
Like they're always fucking miserable and surly and awful. And I assume they get along well together, you know, but like in terms of me as a straight guy, they act like they fucking hate me. I have never had a positive interaction with a lesbian ever.
Nope. Oh yeah, they hate not white guys, but they hate straight guys, especially if they're white nowadays. But even then, like, I would say the meanest things to men, like, so there's one dude he lives in my town, and then one day he just like texted me out of nowhere, and he was like, "Oh, do you want a game with my friends and I know you're a gamer," and I was like, I'm a lesbian, so fuck off." That's literally what
basically, yeah.
Like,
basically.
Like, no, I can't have, male friends or whatever. It was weird. And it's still weird because, like, all my best friends are guys, but I don't know how that even worked in my head. Like, these guys are fine, but all these other guys, no. But yeah. And like that type of, oh God, that type of lesbian that just tries too much to get close to women, Not just close, but like physically close. Like, oh my God, she's sitting beside me. Oh my God, her thigh is against mine. Oh God.
It's got to be a whole game. I don't really but I get it though. You know, I in a sense, like as a straight guy, I can say, a woman can pay me a little bit of attention and she'll get my interest, But I can imagine on the other side of that coin, it's not quite so simple, Yeah,
I get what you mean, because with men, it's I don't want to say it's easy, but since men and women always have had this
it's easy.
I don't want to say you guys are easy, but because we have this chemistry, men and women always have this chemistry, then it's easy because of that,
Yeah.
And then you have two women together, and you have to work really hard. So obviously, one of them has to act like a guy to get the other one's interest. And it's always been like that. At least from what I noticed. Like, one is going to be the pursuer, and the other one is going to be the pursued, and it's not like...
Like you step into those roles.
Yeah.
Yeah. We are programmed. We are programmed. We have to do what we have to do.
I think so.
Oh.
Yeah, but I don't understand the hatred, like why lesbians hate men so much. Even though I was there and I felt those emotions when I came out of it, I was like, well, that was a load of bullshit. Like, again, it was a delusion, you know?
Yeah.
Just to make yourself feel better about your choice. Like, oh, I chose this, I'm gonna go like 100% with it, so I'm gonna hate everything that isn't me, just to further like anchor the fact that this is who I am, even though it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah. I can tell you, you don't often hear the story that you tell.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't mean anything to me other than it actually kind of drew me to you. You know that this is a unique story that's not often told.
Yeah, people are scared to say it because of the oh crap, the backlash. Like I said, cats are playing on top of my computer. Like the backlash I got when I came out as non-gay. Obviously, my parents were fine. They were like, "Yes, finally you realize." But
Oh yeah.
the rest of my family, they were like, "Did your parents push you into this?" I was like, "No, I literally just found it out by myself." And then it was like, "Oh my god, it's your religion, isn't it?" And I was like, "Well, maybe a bit, but also it's I realized myself." And they were like, "Oh my god, it's like conversion therapy, isn't it? That's what you went in Ottawa. You weren't really studying. You were in conversion therapy." I was like,
Oh.
I don't know. I don't understand because when I told them, they were like, "Oh my god, that's so awesome. Be who you are. We'll love you always." And then I come out as non-gay. It's like, are you sure? It's funny. The disparity between these two things. I still don't fully understand why.
No. Definitely. Definitely. We don't have the word. A marker for our culture in 2018 that you can go one way, but you can't go back the other. You know.
Yeah, if you go back the other way, then it's a hate crime. You're a traitor.
Meanwhile, I'm positively the most evil son of a bitch ever to live because I'm a straight white male.
That makes sense.
I've always been kind of clear about that, so I'm double evil.
Oh my god. Yeah.
But hey, I'm thinking we should do this again sometime. That I'm gonna end this stream on that note. But there's a lot more to explore, so
Yeah. Definitely. And I don't know, sometimes I have trouble explaining things when I don't write them down. And that's what I do with my videos. I have to write everything down and then I have to be sure because then I'll forget stuff. I don't know.
well, I will say too that we kind of did. I mean, I know I said at the beginning of the stream, but it's worth repeating that we did this stream cold, just based on you liking my tweets, basically. So, I think I want to say this to everyone who might be listening to this. You know, two people can actually come together and have a decent conversation based on just liking tweets. We messaged each other here and there, but I don't know this woman, you know, but I know you better now, and you know, and from a guy's perspective, from my perspective, I'm like, you know, I tried to get you to stream last night, and you're like, I'm tired. Cool, you know. Does she think I'm stalking her? You know.
No. No, I felt so bad because like I was writing and then you know when you're looking at a screen for 2-3 hours and then all of a sudden you just don't have any energy, and you're like,
No.
I want to die.
I 100% understand not
So-
feeling up to the task.
Yeah.
But I messaged you tonight. I messaged you in the afternoon and said, "Hey, you feel like talking?" You said, "Yeah." So we got it going on. We did it. It happened. I think it could happen again. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it'd be good, and we can talk more about you too. Your
Oh, yeah.
Your
You can ask me some
experiences.
questions.
Yeah, we can do it the other way around.
Absolutely.
That could be cool.
Absolutely.
And
I'm
then
hoping. I'm hoping to get my project noticed. I'm hoping to find an artist, and
yeah.
by God.
How about this? Like next time we stream, we could both talk about our projects again on my channel, and stop doing this, Kitty. And and then we could have pictures of our concept arts, and I could have a clear, concise summary for you guys.
That is a plan right there. That is absolutely what we're gonna do.
Awesome.
All right, Steph. Well, thanks for doing this tonight. You made my day.
Awesome.
Didn't know if it would come through or not, but it did. So we did it. And yeah, you made my day.
Awesome. It was really fun talking to you. And I didn't ask your name either first. I was looking at your screen name. I was like, no, I'm not going to call it that.
Yeah. Did you have to avoid that the whole conversation? Because I should have told you.
Sorry.
Jason.
Okay. Well, it was awesome talking to you, Jason. And we're definitely going to chill again.
Yes, ma'am.
Looking forward to it.
All right. I'm ending the broadcast now.
All right.